Hello and welcome back to What Steven Reads. My name is Steven. I hope you had an awesome Christmas, an awesome Hanukkah. Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah, and insert holiday here. This is a reading recap for the whole entire year, all the books I read. I did count them before. I don't remember. I just had a nice martini and it's in me and I'm in a very good mood, so I'm ready to go through all of my books that I read this year. This is Peter's scarf. Someone at work made it for him, and it's very like plushy and just very cozy. It's very nice. And this hat that I've had forever, and my sweater. I don't know if you can see it. All right, so I'm very surprised to see, and I talked about this before, how much little sci-fi and fantasy that I've read. For someone who loves Star Wars and Star Trek and insert random science fiction movie here and there, I just don't enjoy reading it as much. And I'm going to try again this year in 2026 to read more fantasy and science fiction. Just got to find something that fits me a little bit better. So without further ado, there is this stack which you can see. I hope it doesn't get cropped out when I do the editing. I don't know how that works, but we'll see. They're not in any monthly order particularly, and I didn't organize them by genre, but let's just go through the list. And there's 2 books that I could think of that are not here that I don't own. I listened to them on Spotify, an audiobook, and one of them is The Wedding People and A Funny Story. So just to get those out of the way, Wedding People rather, was a really nicely written book about a woman who is left by her husband abruptly, and she decides to go to a hotel to basically end her life. And it's a story about meeting new people and new beginnings and new life and new love. And I thought it was wonderfully written, a fantastic novel, and I highly recommend that. And A Funny Story, a nice romance novel by Emily Henry, and I really enjoyed that. I listened to it, I did not read it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was one of my first romance novels to read, and I thought she did a great job. It was a great sampling of her writing for romance novels, and I definitely plan on reading more Emily Henry novels in the future. So let's get to the physical books that I actually do have here, and we'll do a quick recap of each one, of whether or not I enjoyed it. And I have to say, it was a relatively good year for reading. My goal was set for 60 books, and then I quickly realized that I'm not going to read 60 books, because for some reason every year I have a lull in my reading habits, and I reach about April, March, I just seem to slow down a little bit. And as you know, I've slowed down lately and I haven't been reading as much. So I've just been busy with photography, and just I bought a new camera and I'm all excited about that, and just watching a bunch of videos about that stuff. So I hope to kickstart 2026 with a little bit more literature energy and just continue reading just fantastic books. So let's begin. So let's just see. I don't even know what's on the top of the list. I was literally pulling them from my Goodreads list and pulling them all out. Power Unbound by Freya Marske. This was the third in a series. I kind of think of it as Harry Potter for adults. It is LGBTQIA and all that stuff. Nice trilogy about this, let's just call it a device, or the MacGuffin. In each book there's a piece of it, and it's trying to be acquired by the good people and the bad people, and it's a fight to the end to basically, which I'm not revealing anything that's a spoiler, but basically what it does is harnesses all the magic of the world for one person's control. And I thought she did a great job writing this. I enjoyed it. A little bit too spicy for me. That's not something I enjoy in books, but I do kind of tend to read those sections a little bit quicker. Not that I'm not interested in that stuff, it's just that I'm not interested in reading that stuff. So I do kind of breeze through that. But otherwise, it was a great magical adventure. Part 2 in the series takes place on a cruise ship. Not a cruise ship, but just like an ocean liner going from New York back to London. And this one is back in London, and it wraps up the whole entire trilogy. And I thoroughly, definitely enjoyed it. I don't know where I'm going to move this pile to, but we'll see what happens. And then John Steinbeck, Cannery Row, a look at post-World War I people living in a neighborhood basically near a fish cannery. And it's one of those books where there's no plot, and it's just about people's lives, and a very colorful cast of characters and their daily lives and interacting with each other. And if you're looking to read a little bit of time capture of what it was post World War One to see what people's lives were like, I definitely recommend this. John Steinbeck is becoming one of my favorite authors, and I really do enjoy his writing. Then let's see what's next. Okay, fantasy novel, Brandon Sanderson, Elantris. I think I'm not a Brandon Sanderson fanatic or an expert, but I do think this is one of his first novels, and I really liked it. It was about this land or city, whatever you want to call it, where people became enlightened in a way, and they became these magical beings, and all of a sudden everyone that had this power had it kind of reversed, and they became like this very dead looking, lifeless cast of people in the society. So after that point, when everyone did get this calling, instead of getting these awesome magical powers, they were basically exiled to Elantris, where these people lived. And it's about a prince who was very powerful and wealthy, gets the calling, but instead of being amazingly magical and bright and light, winds up being cast off into Elantris with the other people that had the same affliction. And it's his story, and a great opposite side of the story of someone he was betrothed to, and by the time she gets to the city to meet him, to meet her new husband, he's already been pronounced dead, and she just assumes he's dead the whole time. Meanwhile, he was whisked away into Elantris, and I enjoyed it. This is the kind of fantasy I like, and I don't know if he does this stuff in his other books, but if that's what it's like, I'm definitely interested in reading more of Brandon Sanderson. And let's see what's on top of here. Philip K. Dick, Ubik. I did enjoy this. This is the kind of science fiction I like. It's an alternate reality or set in the future where things are just so bizarre, where you need a quarter to get into your apartment, you need a quarter to make a phone call. Very strange. A time warping reality novel where things are regressing in society with technology, and it's very much a puzzle box kind of story where you don't know what's going on and you find out in the end. I highly recommend it, and I definitely want to read more Philip K. Dick. Next up, we got James Baldwin, Giovanni's Room. This book was fantastic. This was the first book I read from I'm sorry, a little buzz right now. James Baldwin, and I wound up reading another book, which we'll get to in this list, I'm sure, about a young man in Paris, France, meets another young man, and then we learn that he had a girlfriend, and she had left Paris to just get some time away, and then you dive deeper into the story, and you meet who Giovanni is, and just a great novel. And what I find amazing is that this was written in either the 50s or 60s, and to see an LGBT novel written back then, I think that's pretty cool. I didn't know that even existed back then, and to become such a famous, well-known novel at the time. I mean, nowadays, it's like, okay, but for back then, I think it's pretty astonishing. Another one, James Baldwin, Another Country. This takes place in New York, a little bit in Paris, and the same thing, my same comments, where something like this was written so back in history that it was even published, and people bought it and read it and loved it. James Baldwin, I just think he's fantastic, and I did wind up buying a biography about his love life, which I have not read yet, but I'm looking forward to that. And then one book that I really enjoyed, this is kind of what got me into romance novels, but this is not filed under romance, it's more general fiction. You Are Here by David Nichols, a great walking story. You know, you watch those videos on YouTube where they're like photo walks or whatever it is. And this is basically a walk along the countryside in England. And it's a love story. It's a story about personal lives, and I highly recommend this. And I did buy another book by David Nichols. Didn't get to it yet. Hopefully in 2026 I will. I'm going to need more room for my after pile. The Bump, I read this during Pride Month. Cute story. I wouldn't say, oh, run out and buy this. It's about two gay men who have been together for a while, decide to have a child, and by the time they get to the point where the woman who's having their baby just start having a rocky relationship, and they go on a road trip to travel to California to meet to be with the woman and meet their new baby, and they're trying to hash things out, and they don't really talk about anything, which is sad. They're so close, and they don't discuss what the problems are in the relationship, and it's just a nicely written story about love and family and just communication. So for that matter, I do recommend it. Let's make some room. I Cheerfully Refuse by Leif Anger, right? Yeah, Leif Anger. This is a dystopian novel set, I would say, the border between Canada and the US. A man loses his loved one, and he goes on this journey to find her. Which, I mean, straight from the beginning, you know that he's not going to find her, but I think he believes he will find her. And this world is just a little bit distorted. I still have my notes from when we initially talked about this, but I do enjoy Leif Anger's writing, and I do recommend this if you're into a dystopian novel. Not too wild in the sense of 1984. It is a bleak look on the world, but life goes on. It's not like people are suffering day to day. They're going about their lives. They have their jobs. They have their love, families, and everything. Highly recommend I Cheerfully Refuse. Next up is Day of the Triffids, which was the inspiration for a lot of movies, like zombie movies and stuff. It's about one night, everyone looks up to the sky because they know there's going to be some kind of cosmic event, and everyone wakes up the next day blind unless you weren't looking at the cosmic event. And I just found it a little boring for me. But then again, being a book and novel that inspired so many other novels and movies, I'm sure that if you're into those kinds of movies, like I Am Legend and all that stuff, and 25 days later, weeks later, whatever it is, I think you will enjoy this book to see where it all began, Next up, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, my first Taylor Jenkins Reid book. Awesome old Hollywood vibes, as you know I enjoy. It's a book about love and relationships and, being in Hollywood back in the 1950s, I guess. And just her writing's amazing. If you haven't read a Taylor Jenkins Reid book, highly recommend it. She's an amazing writer. I promise you, 98% you're going to enjoy it. Whether or not you would think you're into that storyline, you're going to enjoy it. Her writing is just so great. I wound up reading Atmosphere, and I love that as well, which we're going to get to that shortly. Then we have Simon Jimenez, The Spear Cuts Through Water, a fantasy novel. I enjoyed it. I wasn't thrilled with it. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was cool. I thought the characters were nice. Maybe the pacing I didn't enjoy. How it goes back and forth between being in front of a theater, kind of hearing about what happened in this adventure. It just wasn't for me. Again, the writing was fine. It was more poetic. And I think if you enjoy something like that, you will appreciate this. I'm not saying don't read it. It just wasn't at the top of my list of, this is the kind of fantasy that I want to read. 20th anniversary edition, Stephen Chbosky, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, coming of age book set in the 90s. I appreciated this book because that was the time that I was coming of age in the 90s, and another book about relationships and figuring out who you are and your dynamic with your close friends and family. Awesome novel. Read it. And there's also a new edition that comes in a soft leather bound edition, and it looks great. I was going to buy it, but I was like, I'm not going to read it over again. I mean, maybe I will one day, but if you do see that copy, I definitely recommend picking that up. Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. I enjoyed it. I did make a comment saying I think it was a little bit overhyped, but I did enjoy it. It was okay. It was his debut novel about a young man who basically has lost all of his family, never got to meet his mother, and his relationships with his BFF and his father. It was nice. It wasn't the kind of novel that I enjoyed reading. I think some of the characters weren't developed enough. But again, consensus says it's a fantastic book. So feel free to check this out. Next up, Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. I was pleasantly surprised by this book. I was just looking for an eerie hotel kind of book. Did not know it was a ghost story. I loved it. It was eerie. It was chilling. Definitely read this. If you want to wait till next October, definitely pick this up. Anywhere with You, a romance novel I read during the summer. And this was just a fun, light read about two people where they had met as children. And their relationship was always just friend-based. And then as adults, they get back together again and trying to secure that bond as friends, and then it turns into something else. And it was just a nice book. It's got camping vibes to it, like road trip vibes. If you're into that, highly recommend it. In Our Time by Ernest Hemingway. Not a big fan. I don't think I like his writing. I am going to try Ernest Hemingway again, and some people in comments to past videos have made some recommendations, and I definitely will check it out. Daphne du Maurier, Rebecca. I loved it. Considered to be a breakthrough in the thriller genre. Just fantastic writing. Very flowery, poetic, gorgeous prose. Fantastic thriller about a woman just trying to adjust to her new life as being the new wife of this young rich man, and dealing with the housemaid, or whatever you want to call her, and how much that woman was obsessed with the former wife of the rich man. Really cool. A classic. Kurt Vonnegut, Cat's Cradle. I think I want to read this again because I feel like I didn't get enough out of it. This might be one of the first postmodernist novels that I read. I didn't hate it. I just didn't like how it felt to me like it was going all over the place. But people do love this book, and this is one of the first books I started making notes in. I definitely think it's worth a second read for me. If you're into postmodernist literature, definitely check it out. I think if I had read the description, or I should say if they had written a better description in the back of the book, I may have been more interested in it and known what it was about, where basically it's about Ice 9, this chemical that could just freeze anything instantly. So yeah, check this out. Again, I want to read more of his novels, and I might read this again. I don't know if in 2026, but we'll get to it. Book I read just before Halloween time, spooky season, Shirley Jackson, The Haunting of Hill House. I read this while I was up in Montreal with Peter. I loved it. Great story. Chilling, scary, knocking at the door in the middle of the night, scary. Psychological, awesome. Just definitely check this out. Bookshops and Bone Dust, as I call these, books to read before I go to bed. This is part 2 of a series. The first one, I'm forgetting the name right now, but just look it up, Travis Baldree. Just a nice, cozy adventure novel set in a little town, and there is a evil character honing in on where they are, and they have to defeat them. It was just a nice read before bed. I mean, you don't have to read it before bed. Read it whenever you want to. Widow's Point. Yeah, I'm going to pass on this one. I didn't enjoy it. It was, I think it would have been great as a movie or as a TV show. And you could watch that video where I talk about why it would be better with like audio recordings and video recordings that are described in this book. It just was not for me. The Merge, just finished this recently. Awesome, about two minds merging into one, because society has gone just crazy with resources and money, and there's this technology that can merge two minds into one, and people, there might be someone that's dying in your family, and you can decide to merge with them, and you could take their mind into your mind and just occupy one body and less resources and stuff. I thought it was great. And if you watch that video, I highly recommend not asking AI how a book turns out, because I almost stopped reading it because of it. Not realizing that AI doesn't read full books. Now, just a quiet side note, I kept asking my ChatGPT about features of the new camera I bought, and it just kept telling me wrong things about the menu system. When I learned, I gave it the file, the PDF of the manual, and now it knows the menu system of my camera. So AI has to learn, so don't rely on it for certain things, which I don't think we should do anyway. As a former artist, make your own art, hire someone to do your art, don't use AI to make your art, please. Sky Daddy, pleasantly surprised, something very different, highly recommend it. It's just wacky, a woman who falls in love with an airplane. What? Yeah, crazy, but awesome. I can't wait to see what Kate Folk does. I don't know if this is her debut novel. Not a clue. I gotta Google her and see what else she's written or what else she has coming out. But fun. And then, we're almost done. Ilana Masad, Beings. And don't be misled by the cover. It's not about an alien invasion or an alien abduction. It's about people researching the story about what happened, and it is about the two people that were involved in a supposed abduction, but it goes far beyond that. So if you're afraid of science fiction and alien abduction stories, this is not it. This is just a great literary fiction novel. Typewriter Beach, Old Hollywood Vibes by Meg Waite Clayton. Great love story, some drama, again, just awesome old Hollywood vibes about being a woman back in Hollywood and how certain things are hidden from the public because things were just so different back then, and it's just ridiculous. But this is just amazing writing, fantastic. I'm trying not to say the word fantastic so often, but whatever. Loved it. Edit that out. And then Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which I mentioned before. Just amazing writing. Sapphic romance about women in the early 1980s becoming astronauts at NASA. She's fantastic. Check her out. And that is my 2025 reading list. And there were a couple of DNFs in 2025. I think I mentioned them already. I'm not going to go through that right now. But yeah, so that's it for now, and I will see you in 2026. Thank you so much for watching. Catch you next time. Please like and subscribe, and follow me on Instagram, same name, What Stephen Reads with a PH. And if you want to see some photos I've been taking with my new camera and other stuff, What Stephen Sees, Stephen with a PH. Catch you next time, and enjoy New Year's Eve. Be safe, have fun. Thank you. Bye-bye.